critical for the city to ensure that we leave no one behind in our new path we seek to navigate for Lillian Ngoyi Street. The active involvement of property owners, tenants, business, and the community in the area has been admirable and commendable. We are truly encouraged by their cooperation. From today, the people of Lillian Ngoyi Street and surrounding areas will begin to see the active movement of heavy-duty machinery and equipment, and we urge them to display maximum levels of participation to protect the development from disruption and any form of criminality. As the city leadership, we will pay close attention to the progress on the site and closely monitor the agreed timelines and milestones to ensure that they are met and delivered upon. We are a city at work. We are a world-class African city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor, for your succinct overview of the project. Indeed, the administration of the city was tested. The efficiency, professionalism, and commitment that was shown and kept up at all times has been very visible and very clear. And we have successfully received this day today because of all of the commitment that we've received from all of the departments. I will now hand over to the MMC of Transport, Councillor Kunene. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sisayanda, Executive Mayor, City Manager, CEO, JRA, and Councillor Nguse. Greetings to all and compliments. I think our dress code here today shows who is on the ground, who is on the street, and those who sit in the air conditions. Myself and the executive mayor, the way we are dressed, we show that we do the dirty work. And the city manager and the CEO are aircon people. The mayor has touched on some of the aspects that I was going to touch on. But there's been a lot of work that has been done to get us to where we are today. The activities between August and November 2023 included the securing of the site by erecting a fence, which of course ended up being extremely vandalized, and we had to replace. We had to identify budgets for the implementation of the investigation work, planning and design stages, the rehabilitation of the affected infrastructure, and of course compliance with the best practices standards to mitigate the risk of similar disasters occurring in the future. We went on an appointment of a multidisciplinary professional services providers to manage and implement the planning and design stages. JRA developed and implemented a traffic management plan which assisted the residents and the users of the roads to be redirected on which roads to use for ease of their traveling. As the mayor said, stakeholder engagements were done where we identified affected, whether formal or informal businesses, and implemented processes to minimize business disruptions. We identified affected residents, implemented measures to minimize the impact of the disaster on their daily lives. It was not easy, but of course, it was executed. We encouraged residents and business owners in the area to access the site, to not access the site at all of trespassing. Residents and business owners were also consulted. The councillors were very instrumental in mobilizing the residents to be part of these consultations so that they know what we are doing and where we are. Ongoing management of the security of the site helped to minimize health and safety risks as well as vandalism of infrastructure. We then engaged in the planning and design, which included developing an accurate model of the infrastructure for the damaged area. You must remember that the infrastructure was installed many decades ago. The model enabled the identification and planning for the replacement of decades-old sewer, water, electricity, and stormwater infrastructure with modern equivalents. So this is a major project that the city has engaged on. Important, as the mayor said, is the opportunities that will benefit the locals. At least 80 work opportunities will be created on the project. A total of 6 SMMEs with a CIDB grading of 1 CE to 4 CE will participate in the project. Of course, the SMMEs will receive accredited structured training on engineering skills and entrepreneurial skills such as tendering. We are not going to have people coming there and demanding 30%. No. We want serious SMMEs who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to grow their businesses and participate in the tender processes. We are not going to have fly-by-nights, and we are not going to allow it. So it must be very clear to those syndicates who come to projects and demand 30%, they will be dealt with decisively. The city is committed to SMME development, and for those who are professional and who are committed. The workers will receive on-the-job training on aspects such as formwork, steel fixing, on-site safety management, paving works, cabling, pipe laying, construction of manholes, and so on. Up to 25 million of the total budget will be dedicated to the SMMEs and local sourcing packages, which will include cabling, cap inlets, manhole constructions, paving, road markings, minor concrete works, including steel fixing, water reticulation, sewer reticulation, stormwater installation, soft landscaping, trees, bollards, benches, etc. The appointment of the community liaison officer has been completed in line with the city processes. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I must add, Mr. Mayor, that this is one of, if not the only project during my term that has been executed with precision. The timelines were done. We said that we will appoint on the 1st of December, and indeed GRA appointed on the 1st of December, and we are well on course. So we have not missed our timelines. We are well on our timelines, considering that the weather is not assisting us. So I think we need to tap ourselves on the back and clap hands for ourselves and the administration. We've done very, very well. Thank you very much.
Indeed, there has been a lot of work happening in the background between August and November of last year, and unseen to the normal resident of the city, it will become prevalent in the coming months. It is great to see us having put the people first. That the new Lillian Ngoyi is within consultation with people that live around the area, as well as empowerment of other people. I would like to now hand over to the City Manager, Mr. Floyd Brink, to do his address. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much and good morning to all. Executive Mayor, MMC, Councillor from the specific ward, our executive management team from JRA, other entities, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Good morning and compliments for the new year. Indeed, Mr. Mayor, this for us, since the occurrence of this gas explosion in Bree Street, known as Lillian Ngoyi, we have previously committed to providing regular progress that we are making in terms of the rehabilitation of the project and that area. So in the wake of the explosion, together with the technical established at that point. We have then had regular feedbacks and updates to the media in terms of the work that we've done and also what we've done to secure that, how to recover and to restore the Lillian Ngoyi street as well as the precinct in the surrounding area. As the Executive Mayor and the MMC said, today we are now pleased that we can now say that the construction work to develop and redevelop the road, service infrastructure related immediately. Clear from the onset that we would not waste any time in ensuring that we act with diligence and speed to ensure that we to ensure the speedy implementation of all our supply chain management processes that would allow for us to commence with the rehabilitation work. So to achieve this, we then appointed, and we've reported on this before, a quality assurance committee that has been chaired by our Group Chief Financial Officer of the city to specifically oversee all the procurement and related processes to this incident and the assessments, as well as the investigations and rehabilitation of the Lillian Ngoyi Street to ensure strict adherence to all supply chain management processes as well as compliance in terms of the financial regulations. We also implemented measures to guarantee fairness and transparency in those particular processes, and in that regard we then included our probity, which is really our internal audit, each and every step of the way in order for us to finalize the processes. So on the one side is the internal audit, on the other side is the quality assurance that we've conducted that has been chaired by our Group Chief Financial Officer. In our last media briefing around 13th of October, at that point we stated, and we've then committed to appoint a contractor by December 2023 for them to then start with construction soon thereafter. I am proud that our team at the JRA Executive Mayor has successfully expedited all the processes. They've implemented a 7-stage project management process, which really resulted in the appointment of the contractor as well as the commencement of works to rehabilitate the project and the site, specifically the precinct in that area. So the planning and the design of the new infrastructure commenced on the 22nd of August 2023. You would recall that was immediately after the time when we started to receive the final closeout reports from our professional teams. So the different stages that we looked at, stage 1 was really our inception stage. Stage 2 was a concept design that we had to look at. Stage 3, which was more critical at that point, was the design development. And stage 4, which is now also the design documentation. And all of these processes were concluded on the 20th of November 2023, and that is when all procurement processes then started. So what are some of the benefits that we are looking at in implementing this program or these projects in that area? One is that we will be rehabilitating a very critical transport route in the CBD. We will then experience some form of improved public safety, but also improved public environment. The planning and design stage of all services impacted by the explosion. The identification of budgets for the investigation work, we had to ensure that we've got that. The professional team, our PSPs, to specifically manage and implement the planning and the design stages of the project. The identification of budgets for the affected infrastructure. Identification of standards to comply with current best practices and also to mitigate the risk of similar disasters occurring. The identification of affected formal and informal businesses and implementation of processes to minimize business disruptions. As you would know, that area, if you would realize that there was also a lot of informal traders there, and now we can indicate that as part of our design there will also be wider sidewalks, and the MMC already also mentioned. We also had to identify the affected residents and implementation measures to minimize the impact of the disasters on their daily lives as well as daily lived experiences in the area. Of traffic management plans, because that also forms part of the engineering frameworks for us. Ongoing management of security of the site to minimize health and safety risk and vandalism. Concurrently, the city also commenced and submitted an application for the declaration of the disaster to the National Disaster Management Center to declare the disaster funding. That's an ongoing process, and we will still continue to engage with the relevant spheres of government in order for us to specifically look at that. It is still undoubtedly critical for us as the city that we do not delay the implementation of the rehabilitation work. And for that purpose, we then ensure that we started a process of rebasing our budgets to reprioritize within our own baselines and start to identify specific areas in order for us then to rebase our budgets and start with the project. So in other words, we are saying, as much as we are waiting for certain indications from other spheres of government with regards to our applications for the disaster, we still had to make our own plans, because as the leadership of the city, we do understand how critical that particular area and that precinct is for us for redevelopment, and that is exactly what we've been doing. In total, the city will be spending about 196 million fees as well as the construction cost of the project, and that includes the contingencies. Executive Mayor and MMC, I would want to repeat that the amount of 196 million should not be misconstrued. It includes all other services within that area. It includes professional fees, and it also includes the contingencies for that project, and all of this is linked to the design work that has been done by the professionals, and that is how the amount is made up. 196 million including VAT. This amount will cover the professional fees related to the project, and more importantly, one, it will be for the roadworks, stormwater and services infrastructure, the electrical work, mechanical and structural works required on site to deliver on the designs as approved by the city. You would recall during our briefings, we always indicated infrastructure for telecom and so on. So when we reconstruct these particular tunnels, when the team in JRA explained the technicalities, it will then become clearer, and that is what this particular budget and this awarded amount consists of. The construction period will be then from today, the 11th of January, that we are taking site, and it will be concluded by the 15th of December 2024. We can indicate to you that there will be intensified project management on that particular site, and if there's any issues with regard to performance of the contractors and so on, we will then ensure that we continue to enforce the contract, and all of this will be overseen by the JRA. They will be exercising strict oversight with regard to that and ensure that we have strict construction timelines that we have set, and that we adhere to those targets and for us to meet those particular targets. As the technical team, we previously committed to embark on a process to assess other service tunnels in that area throughout the city as a means to prevent any future risk. These tunnels is ongoing, and we anticipate that we should be concluding that particular assessment around June 2024, which once we finalize those and upgrading based on the results that we will see there, linked to the current safety standards that will be applicable for us for those particular tunnels. Those particular then indicate you will form part of our 2024-2025 budget, which will then kick in on 1 July 2024. So there is a plan in place to be able. We are also assessing the tunnels in the other areas, which is ongoing, and it should be concluded by June. As we stated in October 2023, Mr. Mayor and MMC, verbatimly we indicated that the Bree Street incident was a reminder of the city's vulnerabilities, but also of its unyielding strengths. Repeatedly, through collaboration, vision and action, we will not only rebuild Bree Street, but we will also elevate it. The city remains committed to the betterment of its citizens' lives by restoring dignity and ensuring a brighter future for all its residents. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brink, for your guidance as steering the committee to where we are today, ensuring that we comply on all the stages within the process thus far. I'll now hand over to the Acting Chief Executive Officer of the Johannesburg Roads Agency, Mr. Lillian Ngoyi, to announce the appointed contractor for the project. Over to you, CEO.
Thank you, Program Director, Executive Mayor, MMC, City Manager, colleagues, and members of the media. Good morning. We have reached the day that time soon, given the magnitude of the problems on the ground. But I just want to commend the team that they've done exceptionally well with the support of our executives. As you can see, they are sitting here. The MMC rightfully said they are doing oversight. But half of the time with the CM, we're on the streets as well. So it's okay. But I just want to say this. This current disaster presented an opportunity for us to relook at the configuration of the city, to also acknowledge certain vulnerabilities. As a city, we are moving forward, and we are doing so in other affected areas on different spheres. Please allow me to introduce the professionals that will be working on the project, as discussed by my principals earlier. The names are as follows. We have a consulting company, and then we have a contractor. So we need to separate the two. The contractor in this instance, it's Step Up Engineering, who is a CIDB Grade 9 CE contractor. And a representative from Step Up Engineering, if you can rise. Okay, morning. Thank you, sir. The consultants who were the first people on site to relook at the whole setup is Dorapi Consulting. Any representative from Dorapi Consulting? Oh, thank you, sir. You're more than welcome. These are the people or the professionals who have been on site, who have put together the effort and the work that today we are celebrating in terms of starting the work to rehabilitate the place. I just want to highlight certain things. Probably a lot of you are asking themselves, why from then until now? In the size of this kind of a project, we also have compliance issues. We're waiting for permits from public works. You don't just work with such figures without them knowing that particular permit is very important. It's one of the compliance issues. And then obviously after receiving that permit, a lot of things had to follow up. The contractor obviously couldn't establish the site, or what you usually call a site establishment, without that as a compliance issue. So the contractor will start with the site establishment. A health and safety file will be required to establish, and that will enable him to continue with the work. Work starts as we've met all the requirements of the project to commence, and we'll take it from there. Probably the leadership and the CM will brief you as and when we progress, because we promised.
Thank you very much, CEO. I will now open up the floor for questions and answers to our leadership and panel, and just hand over to you from a media point of view. If you can just say, please, your name and where you're coming from, and who your question is directed at. Thank you. There's a hand.
There's a hand.
Good morning. My name is Griselda Lewis from SABC Television News. Executive Mayor, could you give residents of Johannesburg the assurance that the cost that has been mentioned by the City Manager will not balloon? By the sound of things, Mr. Brink, it sounds like this 196 million needs to be done. Would there not be a ballooning of this cost to something a bit more exorbitant? Are you satisfied that the internal processes that you've put in place to that have been appointed, I don't mean any disrespect, are above board, and that the monies that will be allocated would be used for what is necessary to rehabilitate the area of the explosion? Thank you.
Are you wanting to answer now?
Theodore Mashele, ENCA. We do know that the businesses that are currently operating, and there's also residents around that area. And you did mention, Mayor, that there are certain measures that are taken to make sure that they are kept safe. May we ask what kind of measures have been taken, and what's going to happen to the businesses around there? Are they going to be asked to close down? And are the residents assured in terms of measures at those?
Are there any other questions?
There's a hand here.
It's Alex Patrick from News 24. We understand that the local state of disaster was not declared. Is the city able to afford the 190 million, and how will we afford that money? Thank you. Okay, we will allow leadership to respond now, and then we'll do another round thereafter if there's any more questions.
Thank you very much. Let me first start by responding to Griselda Lewis's question about the budget and whether or not the city is comfortable for the reinstatement of Bree Street, Lillian Ngoyi Street rather, as well as the environmental upgrade. There are two scenarios that need to be considered in making that determination. Firstly, is the fact that there is ongoing investigations around the tunnels that are in existence in the inner city. For now, and the scope of work that has been defined, the budget that has currently been reached, or the amount that we've declared would be the total cost of the project, focuses on what is known, but it's not a definite budget that we can say 12 months from now there would not be any additional discoveries that would have been identified by the experts that are running a parallel process with the construction company, who would then be advising the city as we continuously explore each and every inch of the city to ensure that we prevent further disasters. If we need to extend the scope, we will, as transparent as we were at this point in disclosing the total value of the project, additional considerations that are made by the city. We will undergo all the requirements legislatively so that we are able to attend to the additions that may be required, perhaps after the project has been concluded. This is due to the fact that it is a known fact that the infrastructure in the city is quite old. And for us to be rigid on a specific amount without considering the expansion of the project into other areas is something that we have been cognizant in the plenary session. But the administration would also like to substantiate on some of the issues that have to do with the budget allocated for in my response to the safety of the residents. in and around the precinct. There have been continuous stakeholder engagements with the property owners firstly, who were then responsible for communicating with their tenants, those that are residential and those that are business in nature. The chairperson of administration, and he'll be able to give you the technical responses as to what measures specifically have been put in place to ensure that the residents in that area are safe, firstly, during the construction period. The third question from Alex, I hope. It's on the fact that a local state of disaster had not been declared. We have applied for it. I think we've had a conversation outside council in relation to the similar matter. And I had indicated the fact that we understand the importance of the reconstruction of Lillian Ngoyi. Compels us to repurpose budgets so that we can begin the construction process whilst our application to other spheres of government pens approval. It cannot be correct that we are stagnant based on the fact that other spheres of government have not yet approved our local disaster. As a city, we are able to respond efficiently and as best we can to the challenges that we face as and when. I had indicated that the City of Johannesburg has now become prone to disasters, and it's measures and mechanisms that we are beginning to put in place to ensure that from a local sphere of government, we are as efficient as can be in responding, in reconstruction, and in maintaining and managing those intergovernmental communication lines. But I think I will request the CN to give any other specifics that I may have omitted in my response in one form or the other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Executive Mayor. It's always difficult to speak after your boss has spoken. So I'll try to touch on the level lower in terms of technicalities. Again, issues with regard to the assurances of the budgets and any ballooning. We can indicate accountability and responsibility, and that you can only do through intensified project management, which I mentioned when I briefed you earlier. So that is the enforcement of the contract, ensuring that our resident engineers and our technical people work very closely with the professional teams as well as the contractor. And we do challenge you as the media, and we will be reporting to you quite often on it. And our next briefing, Executive Mayor and MMC should then be on site once it's safe to do so for us to enter that. So the ballooning of any budgets, it will 196 million, there is an amount of 13 million included there, which is specifically for contingency, which is a contingency reserve, as and when there's any issues relating to something that might not have been detected during the design phase. It's usually for any unforeseen circumstances linked to any unforeseen issues on site. So these are the particular funding that would, but these are monies that are still being approved as and when that unforeseen issue do take place and so on. The company, we are confident B9 CE registration with the CIDB, which is the Construction Industry Development Board, and they have their own set of criteria for contractors to meet in terms of financial stability, in terms of viability, in terms of technical expertise, and that's another sphere of government that we then rely on in terms of experience, qualifications, and so on, and of that particular contractors. But all of these processes would have gone through administrative processes that we would have set in terms of our criteria, functionalities, and so on. So again, it's issues of intensified project management as we are moving forward. The one on the safety, mentioned mentioned, Executive Mayor, is the affordability. Now that we still have issues with regard to the declaration, we will continue to engage the other sphere declaration. But as I've mentioned earlier, because we understand how critical that particular precinct and that area is, to prioritize and reprioritize within our current budgets to identify funding in order for us to start the project. Will we be able to afford the project? We'll do everything in our power to ensure that the funding is set aside, because we didn't want to hold residents and communities at ransom whilst we are waiting for specific disaster declarations and so forth. And that is the commitment of the government of the local to then set aside the first portion of the funding, and we will then continue to identify, but that will not stop any construction from continuing on site. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor and City Manager. Do we have any more questions from the floor?
Okay, Theodore Mashele, ENCA. What kind of measures are taken in terms of the safety? And there was still no answer to what will happen to the businesses? Like, is there a plan in place for those businesses? Because we know I was there last week and it's opened. Businesses are opened and operational there. So is there a plan in place in order to, something, what is being told to the businesses? The question I wanted to ask is that we have not heard anything in regard to your audit outcomes for the 2022-2023 audit financial year. Can you give us an indication of what audit
Thank you. Criselda Lewis from SABC Television News once again. My question was also on whether the City Manager would want to comment on the city's audit report on that. And also, Mayor, just on the issue of the audit, not the audit report, a colleague of mine has asked me to ask her some questions on the displaced Marshalltown tragedy. Were relocated to the Marshalltown building, being kept in temporary shacks. How long they're going to be kept there for? When will their children be placed for school? Will they be given school clothes? And those who lost their IDs, what has since been done to assist with regard with other stakeholders? Thank you.
Executive Mayor, City Manager, if I may ask President Petra to answer on the businesses.
Thank you. Thanks. Businesses. So the site is fully secured. The site area is fenced and secluded from any pedestrian activities. So the work area is completely isolated from the surrounding environment. So the businesses will be able to operate outside the boundary of the site. So they're not going to have to close down. So those are the safety measures that have been put in place, and there is a constant and continuous engagement with the businesses. I think we've got a committee businesses and given updates, on the project, and also listen to the concerns. For instance, in the past engagements, issues around the fencing and people illegally accessing the site, and those things were reported and we reacted on them. So yes, the site is fully separated from pedestrian. Affected. Also, the stability of the buildings in the vicinity of the collapse section are safe. The buildings are safe, so they won't be compromised or any collapse. So the buildings are sound and safe around the collapse area. Thank you.
Can we get your name and surname and designation?
Okay, thanks. My name is Kwazi Mpekwa. I'm the HOD for Infrastructure Development at Joburg Growth Development Agency.
Thank you very much, HOD. The last question was just around the audit. Executive Mayor, over to you.
Thank you. The City Manager, I'll let him go first this time because just to keep things simple. Thanks.
Hello, thanks, Executive Mayor. The question with outcomes. We do have 13 entities. Of the 13 entities, we managed to get 2 clean audits. The other 11 entities all got unqualified opinions with findings from the Auditor General. As the core, the parent municipality, we also managed to get an unqualified audit with findings. And when you look at the group, the statements also unqualified with audit findings. We can indicate to you we do have a team in place that will be working around the clock to specifically look at recurring audit findings and to have internal controls in order for us at the end of the 23-24 financial year to have improved audit outcomes, to increase the number of entities from unqualified with are having findings now to get it into reduced findings. So in the next 2 to 3 years, we should then have a whole number of entities as well as the core. And that is what we are trying from a governance base, specifically to look at strengthening our own internal control environment. And like I said, through our own Operation Clean Audit and us reporting into our group audit committees, that is where we are being held accountable and our The last one that I would just want to close, Executive Mayor, with regard to the plan of the business, Kwazi answered it, but our Department of Economic Development is also working very closely with the businesses in that. And this will also be sorted out once we start to get to that area of the sidewalks, which will be wider in order for us to place them, so that there's no conflict between the business owners and with the necessary permits. But what is critical with the work of our local councillor in that area and through all other property owners as well as the business owners, of course we might not always agree on all the issues that they are raising, but we are well committed to continuously to work with them, even on some of the things that they've still raised with us is with regard to the insurances, and we are working with them. So as and when the rubber side today and so forth, it will still be under supervision because we still need to ensure that as and when they excavate and do that rubble removal, and we still look at certain issues from an investigation point of view in order for us to then start to move closer in terms of the ignition source and some of the causes with regard to this. So it's still an ongoing process. Thank you, Executive Mayor. Oh, okay, thank you. With regard to the Marshalltown one, indeed we've placed them in a temporary area. We are having specific challenges within that area. Our Human Settlements Department is working very closely with them on a day-to-day basis. We need to indicate to you, it is becoming difficult for us specifically on that one from a humanistic point of view. These are people that we've placed from 80 Alberts where they've lost their loved ones. And from the side of the provincial health department, still identifying the next of kin and doing some DNA work, it then becomes difficult for us, Executive Mayor and MMC, for us then either to take them back to their countries and any other thing, because we now need to find a balance to say, traditionally and otherwise, the next of kin are those people in that area. They are affected and they would have lost their loved ones. But we are working closely with the Department of Home Affairs. There are certain processes that are unfolding, but from our side as the municipality, Joburg Water, we had some compliance related issues just before the New Year's. It was also covered by ENCA. We immediately went into that particular site, ensure that education and things take place in terms of our skip bins and waste management that took place. City Power will be on site very soon as well. Joburg Water, we've ensured that we're starting to comply, Executive Mayor, with the standpipes and the ratio within that area. I personally went to site last week to ensure that work is taking place, and I can indicate to you the area was clean in terms of waste management. But we must indicate to you we had an issue on Friday evening where there was some form of flooding in the area, and our EMS were there to ensure that we provide them with blankets and mattresses. But these are some of the things that we are still attending to. Highly committed to the area. How long they will be staying there, we are working closely with Home Affairs, Provincial Health. Like I've indicated, issues of next of kin, because there are the ones that are affected that have lost their loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor. Thank you very much, City Manager. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for honoring our invitation to be part of the Lillian Ngoyi disaster update. We have now come to the end of the briefing session today, but please do look out for our invitation in the next week or so for us to actually go on to the actual site, as already mentioned by City Manager. With that said, I'd like to thank you all for your attendance, and we can just engage thereafter. Thank you very much.